Hey everyone, Ashlen here with Gathering Magic, and welcome. This is MTG Breakfast, our brand new show where we'll be covering all sorts of different topics ranging from finance to draft picks to art, you name it, you want to see it. If you let us know, it'll probably end up in the show. So yeah, we are super excited to get this started and present it to you guys. It's a new series we'll be featuring once a week, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, let's go ahead and check out the news. Alright, so starting off the news, we had two Grand Prix this weekend, Grand Prix Atlanta and Grand Prix Brussels. For Atlanta, we had over 2,000 attendees come to play the Battle for Zendikar Limited tournament. Over the course of the weekend, Tom Martell and Owen Turtenwald ended up going to the finals to duke it out. Tom Martell ended up defeating Owen 2-0, making that his third Grand Prix win. This weekend was also GP Brussels, where over 1,900 players showed up to play in the standard tournament. The top 8 was pretty stacked for this one, with players like Magnus Lanto, Martin Muller, and a lot of other big names. The champion ended up being Lucas Blowan. This GP actually featured several different decks, so the meta was pretty diverse, but if you're looking for what to shoot for next time, the top 3 decks for this one with the most consistent results were Abzan, Rally, and Esper Dragons, which the champion Lucas Blowan won with. A brand new cube format is coming to MTGO on November 18th, this Wednesday, and will be there until December 9th. This format is going to be the Legendary Cube. All the creatures in the cube will be legendary, as well as some other non-legendary spells to mix and match for the draft. And because I'm sure you're all wondering, the prizes for the cube will be player points, as well as these brand new Legendary Cube prize packs. These prize packs will only be available for Legendary Cube winners. They'll contain 6 cards from a selection of over 149 cards from supplemental magic sets like Commander, Plane Chase, and a lot more. If you want to learn more about the new format, feel free to hit up dailymtg.com, or you can just click on the link below and we'll take you right there. And to demonstrate the new Legendary Cube, streamers like Doc, Numa, Elantris, Gabby, and myself duked it out in the Streamer Showdown last Thursday. Palcheon sealed the deal with an All Suns Dawn, returning 5 different spells to his hand in the first pod, and I emerged victorious after a brutal brawl with Boix in the second pod. For a full list of streamers, go ahead and hit up the link in the description below. And that pretty much wraps up all we have for the news this week. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with MTG Finance.
Hey guys, welcome to the MTG Finance Minute. My name is Jim Casal, and I'm here to bring you an update on the world of Magic Finance. This past weekend, there were 2 Grand Prix. One was Battle for Zendikar Sealed in Atlanta, and one was Standard in Brussels. A lot of people ask me, how does the tournament result affect card prices? And unfortunately, since these are at the end of the year, probably not a whole lot. Magic cards as a whole are going down because people tend to sell off before the holiday season where they play a lot less. My advice right now is to sell pretty much any cards that you have from Concentrator and Fate Reforged that are not fetch lands. I think that you'll end up with a lot more money if you sell them now than if you wait until December when the prices are at their lowest. Next weekend is the final 2 Grand Prix of the year. One is Modern in Pittsburgh, and the other one is Standard in Kobe. There are 2 cards in particular from Modern Masters 2015 that I think are a little undervalued for how good they are in the format. Those cards are Fulminator Mage and Spellskite. Spellskite is the only card from Modern Masters 2015 that has actually gone up in price since it was reprinted. They provide such good utility for so many different decks that it's really hard to see how they could still be this low. The other 2 cards that I think might be good pickups for Modern Masters 2015 are linchpin cards that just got reprinted for the decks that they're from. Karn Liberated and Mox Opal at the lowest prices they've ever been since they were in Standard, and they're extremely important to the Tron and Infinity decks. Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch is going to be the first Pro Tour and the only Modern Pro Tour of next year. I expect the Modern interest to pick up right after it. Thanks guys for joining me this week. If you're interested in seeing more of my content, I write for MTGBreakfast.com every Tuesday. And with that, I leave you with the top 5 winners and losers this week, brought to you by MTGBreakfast.com.
Rise and shine, everybody. This is the Magic Man Sam for MTG Breakfast. I've got my coffee. It's a wonderful morning, which means it's a perfect time to crack open a pack. Released on September 26, 2014, Khans of Tarkir is Magic's 65th expansion, sporting a total of 269 cards. The plane of Tarkir is a ravaged one. Depending on which parallel universe we are living in, it is dominated by either a suite of 3 colored clans or 5 different dragon lords. The Khans of Tarkir, leaders of these clans, can be found on their own legendary creature cards. Commander players took to these cards very quickly and with open arms. Khans also brought back allied-colored fetch lands, something we haven't seen in Magic since Onslaught. By reprinting these cards, they would henceforth be legal in Modern, giving players even stronger mana bases than ever before. So what's in our pack? Well, the rare is Blood-Soaked Champion, a 2/1 for 1 black mana that has seen quite a bit of play lately in Aristocrat decks. With a triggered raid ability that allows him to go straight from the graveyard to the battlefield, this guy just doesn't know how to die. And that's the pack. You can find me, the Magic Man Sam, on YouTube by following the links below. Cheers!
Hi there, it's Kevin from RogueDeckBuilder.com, here with the first episode of Rogue Deck Builder's Pick of the Week. In these episodes, I differ from the usual deck techs and gameplay I'm accustomed to doing, and each episode I'll give you my take on a random topic within Magic the Gathering that has been lingering around in my mind. This week I want to talk about legacy reprints that we've seen in standard sets. We've had some really good ones in these past few sets. The Khans of Tarkir sets brought us the enemy-colored fetch lands. Origins brought us Goblin Piledriver, and even though Goblin Piledriver really hasn't made an impact, I think it was a great experiment by the developer teams to bring a popular card in the Goblin Legacy archetype and bring it into Modern to see if it can breathe some new life into another tribal deck. Currently, we only really see elves, and we see merfolk in Modern, and goblins is a very, very popular archetype in Legacy. It'll win some tournaments here and there, and Goblin Piledriver was definitely one of those premier pieces in that Legacy deck. So from Origins, we got Goblin Piledriver, and then even less recent than that in M14, there was a card that only exists in Commander and therefore could only be played competitively in Legacy, and they brought in M14, and that was Scavenging Ooze, which we've seen had quite a big impact in Modern in not only main boards but also sideboards. This is a great way to munch graveyards, so decks like Living End and then even decks like Storm, which we haven't seen a lot of recently, have a card that is a value card that can just be mainboarded that can actually punish those type of decks that utilize their graveyard. So besides Scavenging Ooze and the fetch lands and Piledriver, there have been a few that have fallen flat, but I do like that trend, and personally I'd like to see that trend continue. So in this episode I'm just going to talk about a specific card that I want to see reprinted that sees, I would say, quite a bit of play in Legacy, and it's really one of the more impactful cards in that archetype that I think just really glues together that archetype and makes it actually formidable. Now, right now in Modern, we have a lot of blue-red tempo decks, cards like Lightning Bolt and Electrolyze, and a lot of one-for-oneing that then get Snapcaster Mage to Snapcaster back a Lightning Bolt, and it's just a ton of value. And I think it's really holding back any sort of white aggro type strategy. aggro-based decks, they either have to dish out a ton of damage early or just have a lot of synergy. Like the elves and Merfolk can just snowball out of control. But that's really left a gap that we still have in Legacy with decks like Hate Bears and Death and Taxes. And so the card that I'm going to pick to talk about, the card that I want to see most reprinted in a modern type format, so Legacy card printed in a standard set for the use of Modern, would be Mother of Runes. Now this card, of course, would go in my pet deck of Soul Sisters. I think it has one of the problems with Soul Sisters is you need to keep your Johnny Pridemates alive, especially your Johnny Pridemates and your Sarah's Ascendants. And even your Soul Sisters against certain decks, they get bolted off very easily. Now Mother Runes would either eat that bolt, or if you can stick it out for a turn, if you can get it past the summoning sickness, then you can start protecting your cards. Now right now in Modern, the card that we see protect other cards is really Spellskite. The Spellskite just doesn't really fit that well in those type of builds, and I think that this little slot would be filled best with a card like Mother of Runes, specifically Mother of Runes. Now in Soul Sisters you could tutor it up even with your Ranger of Eos. It gets pumped up with Honor the Pure, so it's not a bad one drop. Like I said earlier, it's played in Legacy just for that, to really, the one-for-one-ing format, the Mother of Runes, you stick that out, you start to protect your threats, and that is the strategy that a lot of these Death and Taxes, Hate Bears, or white aggro decks tend to go. So I think that this would be a perfect card to reprint in an upcoming standard set. I know they're not doing core sets anymore, so it would have to go in a block set, and flavor-wise, I think it's easy to put in any type of set because it's got a very generic name, and so I don't think it'd be a problem with that. So that's my pick. So for this first episode of my pick, it's gonna be Mother of Runes to be reprinted from a Legacy card to a Modern format to give a little bit of boost to Death and Taxes, Hate Bears, Soul Sisters, or any sort of mono white aggro strategy that could come from playing Mother of Runes. So besides Mother of Runes, I'm curious to know what your pick would be for a Legacy card that you would want to be reprinted for use in brewing for modern decks, or maybe it would just go nicely in a modern deck. Be sure to leave your creative responses in the comment section below, and feel free to tweet me at @RogueDeckBuild or email me at roguedeckbuilder@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
John.
Hi there, and welcome to Call a Judge. My name is Morgan, and I'm a level 2 judge out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm here to answer your questions about rules interactions in Standard, Modern, Limited, Legacy, Vintage, Commander, Canadian Highlander, and, well, you get the picture. Today we're going to talk about Awaken, a mechanic that came out with Battle for Zendikar and has been seeing some play in Standard. Awaken is an alternative casting cost that adds put X counters on target land. It becomes a 0/0 elemental with haste. It's still a land to the text of a spell. There are a few Awaken spells that are popular in Standard, so we're going to go over some rules that may come up over the course of the game. Reed Duke's Esper Demons list uses 2 Awaken spells, Scatter to the Winds and Ruinous Path. Scatter the Winds is an instant that costs 1 blue to counter target spell. You can awaken it for 4 blue and get 3 +1/+1 counters on the land. Ruinous Path is a sorcery for 1 black that destroys target creature or planeswalker. You can awaken it for 4 or 5 for 5 and a black and put 4 1/1 counters on a land. So it's pretty important to know when you can or can't awaken a land. You have to have a legal target to cast a spell at all, awaken or no. That means that Ruinous Path needs a creature or planeswalker to destroy, and Scatter to the Winds needs a spell on the stack in order to make a land into a creature. One of the neat interactions in the Esper Demons deck is the interaction between Awaken and the creature land that the deck plays, Shambling Vents. If you cast a spell for its Awaken cost and choose a creature land as a target, the land will be a 0/0 elemental that still has the activated ability that makes it into a creature. When you activate that ability, the power, toughness, colors, and abilities change until the end of turn. For example, with Shambling Vents, if you activate this ability while it's awakened, it will become 2/3 plus any additional +1/+1 counters until end of turn, where it will go back to being a 0/0, where the +1/+1 counters are its power and toughness. This is pretty cool because it allows huge life swings to happen in the deck, but the land is then vulnerable to sorcery speed removal, which is one of the really big upsides to playing creature lands at all, is the ability to have them be resilient to sorcery speed removal. So it's something to think about for sure. Can you cast a spell with Awaken with everyone's favorite precocious teenager? Yeah, using Jace's -3, which says, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard this turn. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Since Awaken is an alternative casting cost, and Jace's -3 just says cast, rather than giving the spell another alternative casting cost, you can cast it for its Awaken cost. Pretty sweet, right? Victor asked about how Zada Hedron Grinder interacts with the Awaken cost on Earthen Arms. Zada is a 3/3 legendary goblin ally for 3 and a red that says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Zada Hedron Grinder, copy that spell for each other creature you control that the spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. Earthen Arms is a sorcery that costs 1 and a green to put 2 +1/+1 counters on target permanent, and it has the Awaken cost of 6 and a green. Remember, Awaken gives the spell the text of, in addition, put X 1/1 counters on target land. Zada requires that a spell only has one target. So if you use the Awaken cost on Earthen Arms, it will say, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target permanent, and 4 +1/+1 counters on target land, which means that you wouldn't get copies of Earthen Arms if you cast it for its Awaken cost. Thanks for your question, Victor. To hear more from me, check out my weekly draft series on gatheringmagic.com called Drafting with Morgan, as well as my personal YouTube channel, The Daily Draft. And come back next time to Call a Judge to learn how you can master prowess. Thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, Ashlen here, and today we're going to be covering all the different art that you guys have sent in. Basically, last month I tweeted out asking you guys to send me any and all of the things magic related that you've created so that we can show them off on this show. And so that's what this is about. Let's go ahead and check out what you guys sent in. Alright, so first up we have these really cute and cool, totally cool, spinning life counters by Cardmagigs. And he has one that they sent in that's a little Sensei's Divining Top, and then there's another one which it looks like a little ice cream cone. They're really cool looking, and it would be something awesome to play with as well. So next we have these really cool hand-painted figurines of Jace and Fibblethip. And let me tell you, when they tweeted me this, I was blown away. It's really cool. Just take a look. The Magic Man Sam also sent in a pin-drawn rendition of the Goblin Lackey. The amount of detail in this drawing is amazing. I can't get over just looking at it. It looks like something that the artist sketched before painting the card. So mad props to you, Magic Man Sam. Keep on drawing and keep sending them in because we'd love to see more. Alright, last but not least, we have these Kobold and Pyromancer tokens sent in by Anime Perfect Dude, and they're really, really cool looking. My favorite has to be the Kobold, who looks like he just stepped out of a shower and is very angry and upset. I would not want to be the person he's glaring at right now, that's for sure. Alright, that's all the art we have for today, but we want to see more. Please send us what you have. We'd love to see it. You can tweet me at Ashlen Rose, or you can send it to MTGBreakfast@gatheringmagic.com. Let's go ahead and head on over to Adam's segment to see what he has in store with Commander.
Hey Magic YouTubers, it's Adam Staworski, the Stibs, coming to you on YouTube to talk about Commander like I always like to talk about. Content manager for gatheringmagic.com, command tower writer on magicthegathering.com. I really like my Commander, and I really like Commander 2015. I think there's one card that's just absolute best card in the set for Commander. Just one that stands above the rest for the format. Couple honorable mentions to get out of the way. Verdant Confluence is triple Rampant Growth. It's pretty good. I like Rampant Growth. But the fact that it can get a permanent back instead of, or 3 of, if you want to choose that mode 3 times, means there's a lot of different ways to kind of combo off with it. You can go infinite casting it over and over and over, getting lands, getting +1/+1 counters, whatever you want to do. It's going to be pretty easy to get it back. Eternal Witness is where I'd start. The second honorable mention I want to talk about is a new legendary creature, Marin of Clan Neltoth. It's pretty easy to pick up experience counters in a deck where you're constantly sacrificing things, so green-black is where you're already at sacrificing things. But the fact that it just gets a creature back at the end of your turn, the end of every one of your turns, is awesome. If you have enough experience counters, getting on the battlefield is just gravy. But it's going to be one of those commanders that you bring down, cast. You've got a sizable body that you're going to get a bonus from. But the fact that you still just get a creature no matter what is amazing. It's one of those kind of centerpiece build around me cards that also slots into Prosh Skyraider of Care and kind of other Jund decks and a lot of different directions it can go in, whether it's your kind of commander centerpiece or just a value engine part of a sacrifice deck. But neither of those cards are the actual best card in Commander 2015 for Commander. The best card is Blade of Selves. I love Myriad. I'm not the biggest fan of the kind of generic creatures Myriad showed up on, but the artifact, the equipment, the blade is nuts. It's so good. Sun Titan, Inferno Titan, Sepulchral Primordial, Wood Elves, Mold Drifter. You can name hundreds of enters the battlefield creatures, these spell creatures, and it just makes them insanely good. Getting to use Bone Shredder every combat step until they, kill the Bone Shredder or destroy the blade is good. There's so many different ways that you can just abuse and get a ton of value and advantage out of using Blade of Selves. Turning anything, except maybe legendary creatures, you probably don't want to do that, into multiple copies every combat step funnels into, sacrifice decks. You're going to have those creatures that you can sacrifice at the end of combat. Just so many different things you can do with the blade on so many different angles. And it complements, the philosophy I like for Commander, which is casting creatures and things that give you some sort of bonus or effect right away. And then if I've got these little widgets and gadgets and other things that kind of go with it and give you a bunch of synergy with that, like Blade of Selves, it just makes the deck so much better. So that's my pick for the best card in Commander 2015 for Commander. I want to know what your picks are. Tell me on Twitter at @the_Stibs, STYBS. Let me know what you think the best card in Commander 2015 for Commander is, or anything else. Maybe I'll talk about it next week. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Keith Adams, and I collect Magic the Gathering, misprints, test prints, and oddities. Anything strange, I'd like to have it, and let me share with you one of the cards that I have. This is a Mountain from Onslaught, and it comes from a Precon deck, and that deck accidentally got the wrong game put on the back. This is from the Harry Potter trading card game. This was a game that was very short-lived, and they accidentally put the wrong back on these Magic cards. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more stuff like this, please feel free to tune into my own YouTube channel, and stay tuned, we'll have more like this next week.
Hey there, I'm Marshall Sutcliffe here at Grand Prix Seattle Tacoma. I'm gonna crack a pack. All right, so let's get into this pack here. See what we got. Hopefully something sweet. Territorial Baloth is our first card off. Has not impressed me. Pretty slow. Green is not a color you want to first pick here. I want something that jumps out of the packs for me to really get into it, and preferably in a specific strategy. Landfall are just sort of creatures with a bonus ability, but it's not its own strategy, so Baloth is out of the question for me. Okay, back to Clutch Occurrence. Again, this is one of the better uncommons, one of the better commons in the set, and it's a card that I'm personally partial to as well, but it's just super powerful. This is easily going to be our front runner, and it's actually going to be pretty tough, at least from the commons, to knock that thing out. Well, there's a good one though. Outnumbers, very, very powerful card. Only 1 red mana here, and it's an instant, and so when it goes off, it's one of the best removal spells in the format, because you just don't get 1 mana spells that can kill things that have 2, 3, even 4 toughness. The problem is it's very conditional. If you have a slow start, if you were forced to block, if you're behind on board and don't have that many creatures, Outnumber shrinks down to a card that you probably wouldn't want to play. It only does 1 damage or maybe 2, and when you need to deal with bigger threats, it doesn't do anything. So it's hard to prioritize it super high, but and I still think the Clutch is better, but Outnumber is certainly under consideration at least. Angelic Gift. This is classically one of those cards that looks like a card that you'd probably end up playing sometimes, but you never end up doing it. It doesn't really have any synergies with anything in the format, and even though it doesn't carry a lot of weight to it, only 2 mana, you get the card back and it has a minor benefit, it just ends up not being worth it, so we're not going to pick it. Grave Birthing is actually similar to Angelic Gift in that way. It's a card you can play if you need to, but it's a little clunky at 3 mana. It doesn't produce a big effect. The good news is you can fire it off even if your opponent doesn't have a card in their graveyard, but then you're not really getting that much value. I've played this card. I think it's okay. It does not even come close to Clutch of Currents. Broodhunter Worm, sorry man. You have the stats. You look good on paper, but this big block of flavor text in the middle and no colorless, no anything. It's not an ally. That just doesn't synergize with anything, and it happens to be in green, which is a color people try to avoid, including me. It means the Broodhunter Worm's just not in. Spell Shrivel. All right, now Spell Shrivel is a card you can play. The problem is it's not nearly as good as Clutch of Currents, and it's in the same color. So even though you might consider taking a Spell Shrivel somewhat early, you're never doing it first pick basically, and Clutch of Currents is just way better and in the same color, so it's out. Oh, here's some business. All right, now we're talking business. Complete Disregard is one of the few cards that can actually compete with Clutch of Currents here. Instant speed removal spell, gets your gets your ingest stuff going by exiling a card, and it's really, really strong. It's also in black, which is a color I don't mind being in, so I'm going to move Complete Disregard up to the maybe pile here next to Clutch. Ruin Processor's next. Ruin Processor is 4 or 7 mana spell. I really like it. That said, it is just too expensive to compete with these two really good spells up here. Plated Crusher, triple green. It's not a bad Magic card, but again, it's nowhere near Clutch of Currents or Complete Disregard, and it's not really on our list. That's our first uncommon. Our next one is Horribly Awry, which is another playable card that falls into the same trap that we saw again, which is that it just doesn't compete with these two cards, so it's just out. There is a Blighted Gorge, which is playable, but not something you want to take this early. You need to take these hardcore synergy cards, Awaken cards, Devoid cards. You don't want to be taking value lands out of it. Here's our rare. It is Angelic Captain, which is a totally fine card, 4/3 flyer for 5 mana. It has a bonus. You can't really complain about an Angelic Captain. That being said, I prefer not to take a gold card if I can avoid it. It has to be really great, and while Angelic Captain is very good, I still think that both of these cards are better than it. We got a sweet foil here too. It's a Mist Intruder, but Mist Intruder, once again, being in the same colors as what we have, you know, this is a key card for the Ingest deck. You do need these, but I prefer these ones over it even early, so that one's out, and that leaves us just with these two cards, Clutch of Currents and Complete Disregard, and this is just a super tough choice. I don't know which one's better. I could flip a coin and be pretty happy with either. I think me being me, I'm going to take the Clutch of Currents. I like I like how it goes into any blue deck, and specifically in blue-white, I think this is one of the better cards, so I'm going to take Clutch over Complete Disregard here for this pack.
All right, that pretty much wraps up our very first episode of MTG Breakfast. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to let us know in the comments below what you think. We want to know what you loved about it, what you want to see more of, and if you ever have a segment that you want to see on the show, feel free to hit us up at MTGBreakfast@gatheringmagic.com. And also, a huge shout out to all the contributors for their segments this week. You all are awesome. So again, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.